How's it going, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Before we get to the 929 blog, I painted the wife's truck. For those who don't follow me on Instagram, you would have saw that update. I did not make any footage on that, number one, because I am not a painter, I'm a mechanic, and number two, it was just a quick job to help freshen the truck up a bit. So you'll see that in future videos, but if you're wondering how or why the wife's truck has changed, I did it. So let's get into the motor. And before, if you like this brand new hat, stay tuned to the end of the video. There is a boatload of information regarding this hat and some of the new stuff we have coming out and giveaway, so stay tuned. Alright, back to the subject at hand. This will probably be the very last video of the teardown of a 6.5 block, specifically the 929 block. We got to get the camshaft out, the pistons and rods out, got to get the crankshaft off the block, also with the oil pump and the oil pressure sensor. So, like I said, this will probably be the last video of tearing this down, but this will not be the last video of this motor. I've pretty well made up my mind about what I'm going to do with it, or what I'm going to try to do with it. This will not be the last time you see this motor. So, let's start by getting the tone ring for the crankshaft position sensor moved back, and let's get the camshaft out. Alright, so I took the camshaft timing gear for the injection pump off. It is just the one 18mm bolt, and there's also a keyway that goes in that gear as well, so it will be time with crank, time with cam, and time with injection pump. So set this over here. I'm taking the tone ring off of the crankshaft. You can get a 3 or a 2 jaw puller. Some of them won't fit. You get to kind of maybe grind the ear off or down on your puller, but you just kind of make sure that it doesn't slip on you. This one is doing, because I did not bring my grinder home. We're working with what we got. Back with the pry bar. Now we're just gonna, you just saw that we got the tone ring and the gear pulled back a little bit, and now we're just trying to walk the camshaft gear off, and you're just gonna want to work it back and forth. Be easiest with 2 pry bars. There we go. But one works as well. May have to walk the tone ring off just a little bit more.
Pretty decent.
And then the gear comes right off, and you can walk the chain off. And then here is your camshaft gear and chain. Now, your camshaft itself is held in by this plate and these 2 bolts. So we'll take this plate off, and we'll guard the camshaft out. Those 2 bolts are 13mm There's this little plate here that holds the camshaft in. There's that gear that your oil pump drive gear rotates on. We'll get this cleaned up and give her an inspection real quick. There's your camshaft removed. Alright, now we're here at the back of the engine looking at the oil pressure switch, and with the motor outside of the truck, this really isn't that big of a deal to get off. You can just take a regular adjustable to it if you need be, but in the truck, this spot, I think your transmission bolts right here, and you have the front of the motor this way. This is kind of a pain to get at, especially with, you have a head right here, stuff like that. So this is your oil pressure switch. You can also find them, on some of the blocks. There's a little plug right here. It located right here. I've also seen oil pressure switches located right here in the valley. That's even more of a pain in the ass to change, but typically they're right here. So they do make a special socket for it. This one's, let's see, PT, and then there's your part number, and then it's 1 inch and 1/16. Basically it just slides over the oil pressure switch, and it's deep enough and thin enough to fit right over the switch. And just go ahead and wind it out. These oil pressure switches are pretty weak. They are known for going bad, and they do run your lift pump on these 6.5s. If you have a fueling issue, things of that nature, this is pretty well known unit for going bad. We'll get this extension out of here. What size do you? That'll work. 15/16. I know it's, or yeah, 15/16. I know it's metric, but my wife's toolbox doesn't have too many tools, and I'm not gonna travel all the way to work to grab mine. We got this one 15mm bolt for the oil pump. Just be able to remove that. And here is that Allen head rod that I was talking about. Alright, so here's your oil pump. Here's your oil pump drive rod. And here is the oil pump drive gear. So this sits in the engine, and when the engine is turning, the crankshaft turns the camshaft, and the camshaft turns this little gear. This little gear drives this rod, and thus driving your oil pump. So that's how it looks outside or inside the motor, whichever way you want to look at it. But this part right here is stationary, and then the gear rotates on the camshaft. We had a visitor. That's my other dog, Brooke. I know you guys have seen Maddie before, or as I've called her in the past, Shop Dog. But alright, let's get these pistons out of here. So I think, alright, let's see. Damn 15. Everything's a 15 on this thing. Alright, so you have your piston rod cap that is attached to a piston rod that is then connected to the piston by a wrist pin. There we go. So we're gonna go ahead and try to get these out. Alright, so there is the piston rod cap, and then we should just be able to push piston. Make sure you get your hand on the backside so you can catch the piston. And just like that, there is number 4 piston. Some schmoo on it. There's that wrist pin. There's your rings. These have seen better days. But, not too much. Well, if I had a clean hand here. Honestly, not a whole lot of scoring on the skirts of the piston at all, but let's get to pulling the rest of these pistons out, and let's get the crank out of it. let's get the turbo drain out. It is just a 14 and a 10, and you can wind those 4 bolts out. Let's see. Just like that. Gasket, known for failing, but alright, so this is what we got on the table so far. Pistons out, camshaft out, heads, injection pump, rockers, timing. And we just got the crankshaft, and I kind of want to cover this in more detail as far as the different size bolts for the caps and the same size bolts as the caps. There's a bunch of information on that, especially to do with main web cracking. But these are an 18 millimeter, all 4 bolts on each cap. All 6.5 blocks are a 4-bolt main, but there are some blocks that have a different size outer bolt. And again, I want to cover that in a later video because there's more information there. So we'll get all the bolts off for the crankshaft, remove the crank, and then we will inspect what we got. Of course, the 929 is a non-squirter block, so you don't have to worry about the piston oilers or anything like that when removing pistons, or just getting in the way or anything like that. Some people prefer the piston oilers, and some people don't. It's all personal preference. There are some pros and cons against them. But again, that's probably for a later video. So let's get these 18 millimeter bolts out. I'll give you guys a bird's eye view, and that should be just about it as far as tearing this block down. Alright, so just like removing a head, the crankshaft is real friggin' heavy. So if you can, at all possible, get 2 people to help you lift this crankshaft out. Fortunately, I am alone. Well, the wife's in the house, but I typically work on my stuff by myself. So let's now that we got the main caps off, let's go ahead and remove the crankshaft. So lift with your knees, not your back. Take it out. Alright, so block is torn down to practically nothing at this point. We still have some frost plugs. You still got the block heater. We still got the main bearings. You get your cam bearings, stuff like that, and it needs a really good wash. As you saw, that I was having a little bit of a hard time getting the 3rd main cap and the 5th main cap off. Reason being is the 3rd one is your thrust bearing, and the last one houses your rear main seal on the crank. So there's a rear main seal. There's the crankshaft. It is not cleaned up or anything, but there's a whole 6.5 motor torn down to practically nothing at this point. This is just bare block, aside from, of course, bearings. So as you saw in my second tearing a 6.5 block down to bare block, we discovered that the main web for number 2 and number 3 are indeed cracked. However, I feel that it would be an injustice of me to just do what every other 6.5 owner has done and give up on these blocks. I don't want to give up on this block, and I feel it is a good candidate for a method that I've known about for quite some time. If you look through the comments, I actually had a pretty awesome discussion with one of my subscribers about this method, and that I plan on, in fact, doing it to this block. I am not going to give up on this motor. I still feel like these cracks could be worse, and of course, if they were worse and I had more cracks, I would not be willing to do this to this motor, of course. However, I do believe that these cracks are savable. I do believe that this motor itself is savable, and for what I want to do with it, I feel like the method that I'm referring to will help this block quite a bit. I'm not going to, as some of you know, I'm not just going to rebuild this motor to factory spec or anything like that. I want to do more or less some pretty stupid things with this motor. and this is going in my truck. I'm not just building it to throw into somebody else's trucks, or I'm not going to build it and then sell it or anything like that. This is specifically going in my truck. If anything were to happen, I am keeping the motor out of my truck, so if I need it in a pinch, I could just throw my motor back in, but I do plan on building the 506 block out of my pickup as well. But yeah, I am not going to give up on this motor. I'm not just going to throw it in the trash and keep looking for new motors that are potentially going to do the same thing. So let's, of course, it's going to be a while before I can get back to this motor. Of course, I have a couple videos lined up as far as the different size main cap bolts, the oil squirters, and reading the full casting number on the block itself. Please let me know if y'all are interested in any of those videos. I greatly appreciate that. But this is going to go over right behind my push mower, and it is going to sit pretty much this way for quite some time. But once I come up with the funds and am able to buy the necessary parts in order to do stupid things with this, we will start putting it back together. But for the most part, this will be just about the last you see of this block for quite some time after I make those other videos. So there we have it. Alright everybody, so we are wound down for the end of the day. Thank you so much for making it this far. So, just wanted to go over some new things that will be available on the IDI Legends website. The original hats, like the one I'm wearing, sold out. So we decided to go with 3 new hats. This is a gray and white snapback, and I think the gray and the white look super sharp. Some of you guys mentioned that y'all wanted flat bills, so we do have a flat bill available in white and black. And then Andy came up with this. Is a black with black stitching, and I think these look super sharp. And we also have a new t-shirt out. It has the little IDI Legends logo on the front, with of course a big one on the back. It's blue with black lettering. I am a super big fan of the blue. I know maybe not everybody is into blue shirts, but we will be coming out with all new colors very soon. We are working on doing shirts ourselves. We are not set up to do hats by ourselves just yet, but we're working on it for y'all. So that is what's new with the merch. Also, we are working on lanyards. We know a couple people asked for lanyards, and it'll be super affordable, and it'll just be a little nice thing that you guys might like as well. So as far as the giveaway goes, our stipulations as far as the giveaway, we will be doing a giveaway very shortly, but our goal is to get 5,000 followers on Instagram. Once we reach that goal, we'll be doing a giveaway. The giveaway itself, like I had mentioned before, will be a usable tool of some sort. We've pretty well talked about what we're going to give away. It's going to be right around a $200 value, but yeah, that's the update. So thank you all so much for watching. I know the end of this video isn't my typical ending, but yeah, it's time to wind down for the day. So I'll catch you legends in the next one.